Hi guys, I'm Daphne Quay, your boss lady realtor, and I am here today with my good friend Alejandro Juarez, who is a local lender. We've been working together for many, many years. And today we're going to talk about the things to do and mostly not to do when buying a home. I brought Alejandro on with me today because we do work together a lot of the time. And when you're buying a home and financing a home, it's not just like you're working with a realtor and that's it. Like you're working with a lender, and there's things you need to know both on the buying and like the lending side to avoid, and well, things to do as well that are going to make your home purchase easier, smoother, and enjoyable for you. And our job's a lot more straightforward. So first thing to start with, know where you want to live, sort of. I work with a lot of people that are relocating here from out of state, which is a lot of fun. And I think coming from out of state, there's no way you can know exactly what part of town or what neighborhood you want to be in. A lot of it is just going to be trial and error. Sometimes people have to come into town and get a feel for these different neighborhoods. They'll be like, hey, this is kind of my budget, I think, I don't know. Can you just send me some houses? And they won't even really take the time to talk to me about like what kind of home they like, what style of home they like, take the time to get pre-approved and like get an actual price range in place. I like to know like what they like to be close to, what they want from their home, like long term, if it's going to be a rental for them down the line, if they're going to sell it down the line, if they're going to be in it for 20 years. These things are actually really important, and they really help me as a realtor guide you and offer different suggestions in different neighborhoods to be in. And every now and then I get a handful of folks that are just like, just send me houses. And I'm like, I have no idea what you want. And that makes it very difficult and incredibly frustrating. So know more or less where you want to be. Alejandro, why is it helpful for you to know?
It's super helpful actually for us to have an idea of what you're looking for and what your profile is as a buyer. We've got people that are looking for their forever home. They want to be there forever. They're not thinking about moving anywhere. But we also have people that are looking to maybe create an investment portfolio. They might want to move into this home, but they don't see it as a forever home. It changes the perspective, and it also changes the way that we look at your purchase. It also helps us to know what type of property you're looking for. Is it a condo? Is it a duplex? Is it a single family residence? All of those factors are going to impact the type of mortgage that we structure for you, and also impact the long-term investment, return on investment. And we want to take a look at those things so that you are prepared, educated, and that simply you have all of the information necessary to make the best decisions about your future.
Also property taxes, because there's a pretty big like price range, I guess, in different neighborhoods throughout Austin. I mean, if you're in Austin proper, you've seen this, like parts of West Austin, like Westlake, the tax rate is like 1.98% in some pockets, which is super low. But then you go to some of these newer neighborhoods in like Round Rock or Pflugerville, Georgetown, where the tax rate is up to 3.2%.
Yep, absolutely.
And that makes a big difference in a loan.
Huge difference. And getting an idea of where our clients are looking to purchase, we can begin to prepare them for those differences so that they know that certain areas might have different taxes, how that's going to impact their payment. All of that is part of the planning that we try to do with our clients to prepare you, set realistic expectations. I think all of those things are really important.
Second, make sure to have a pre-approval letter before we start looking at homes. I'm going to give you kind of a high-level explanation, and homeboy here is going to explain in more detail what that is and how that works. But basically, when you get a letter of pre-approval from a lender, it's like you go to the lender and you give them your financial information, credit, work history, all of that, and they say, this is how much house you can afford. And I think most people like already have a pretty good idea of what price range they need to be in, but you have to have that if you're going to finance a home and then buy a home. Because our market is so competitive, we have to have a letter of pre-approval before we start looking at homes and when we submit an offer to make sure that you're qualified and that you're legit. What do you have to say about that?
The first thing I would say is that it's really important to understand that the term pre-approval versus pre-qualification is super difficult to understand because so many different lenders refer to them in different ways. So what I would say to you is that, you know, whatever it is, whether it's a pre-qualification that they're calling it or a pre-approval that they're calling it, ask the question whether it is verified, right? Did the lender receive documents that allowed them to verify the information so that they could issue that pre-qualification / pre-approval? Whatever they are calling it is irrelevant. What is relevant is, did they verify?
Documents, and by documents you mean things like tax returns,
tax
bank
returns,
statements,
W-2s, bank statements, pay stubs. You know, they're going to ask you for a full full range of documents. If you own property, they're going to need the mortgage statement. They're going to need property taxes, homeowners insurance, HOA, leases. I mean, there's lots of information. And none of that should be skipped, because you would be surprised what any small little thing can do to final approval in the middle of the process. You don't want to find out after you've gone under contract that something is wrong. That's why the quality of the pre-approval is so incredibly important, not just to you, but also to the seller and the listing agent. They want to make sure that that pre-approval / pre-qualification is really thorough, and they're going to look for partners that they can trust in the area to make sure that that is the case.
Whenever I submit an offer, I always include the lender in the email, and I'll be like, hi, selling realtor, here's my client's offer. Also, here's our lender, who is bomb. Our client is super qualified. They're awesome. And then I will send the email out, and then I'll have the lender get on the phone with the selling agent, also to hype up our client. That's actually a really effective tool that we've been using in this market to help our clients get homes. Third of all, don't make more than one offer on a home at a time. So like I've mentioned multiple times already, our housing market is actually super competitive, and depending on the part of town that you're in, it can be more competitive than others. Every now and then I'll have a client that's like, hey, let's make 3 offers at once and see what house we get. In full transparency, yeah, we have done that before. I hate doing it. It oftentimes ends up being a waste of everybody's time, and it can actually end up causing some issues down the line. When the market was really hot in spring of 2021, I had clients that were just so desperate to get a home, and they would find 2 that they super loved, and we would make the exception and be like, okay, let's submit 2 offers at once and see what happens. Just so you guys know what happens like on our end, when we're about to submit an offer on our home, I, as a realtor, get on the phone with the selling agent and we'll have a conversation. I try to keep them on the phone for as long as I can to get as much information out of them as I can to put my client in the best position. After that, we have a conversation, right? So me and my client have a conversation about what we want to offer, if it still makes sense for them. And then we'll bring my assistant in on it, and she puts the docs together. The documents can take anywhere from about 45 minutes to an hour to put together, depending on the home and like the disclosures that go along with it. Then I reach out to Alejandro, and then I'm like, yo, we need to put together an approval letter. He does that, and we get all this, like this huge package of documents together so that we can submit an offer. If we have to do that times 2, and we either don't get either home or we get both homes and then decide not to go with one of them, that actually ends up being, I feel like, pretty disrespectful and a big waste of time for the seller that's actually trying to sell their home. Granted, they do have multiple offers, so they'll probably sell it pretty quickly, but while they accept our offer, and if we decide they don't want it, they have to tell everybody else that made an offer on the home that they are not going to accept their offer, which, I mean, that's just kind of a crappy thing to do to somebody. And like I said, we have made exceptions, and I haven't been in the position yet, thank goodness, where both of our offers get accepted. Generally, it's just such an unkosher thing to do, and it really eats up a lot of time. So it's so important to know exactly the type of house that you want and be decisive, just so that we can be efficient, effective, and respectful.
It can also put you specifically in a bad position. From our vantage point, we're kind of like horses at the Kentucky Derby. The moment that we get told that our contract has been accepted, we're ready to bust out the gate and go, because there's so much related to timing here. And what I've seen happen to clients is when they do get 2 offers accepted, or sometimes 3 offers accepted, there's a lot of waiting. They don't know which house they want now. They're spending days trying to figure out which of these do we want. Those are days lost. And in a market like one in Austin, every single day is a huge deal, because we're trying to order appraisal, order the title report, get the disclosures out. All of those things we're trying to do, but we can't do that until we identify which property we're doing this for. And so that is a huge holdup on our end, because losing 2 or 3 days, one day from ordering the appraisal can put us in a really bad spot down the road. So that can be problematic for us as well.
You've had
Oh yeah.
3 offers accepted on one. Oh,
absolutely.
That sounds disgusting and so
It's-
stressful.
And the problem for us is that
anxiety.
we often feel that our clients don't know what has happened. From their vantage point, it's often like, yeah, I can't believe this. Like, we have all of these things to do. But from our vantage point, it's like, okay, which one are we picking? Like, we've got to go. We got to go. Yeah, that can be really bad.
Nope.
Yeah.
Not up in here.
Fun times.
Don't do that. Fourthly, or number 4, or the next point, don't change lenders halfway through your home purchase. Don't do it.
No bueno.
It's really so bad. Es muy malo.
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah. On my end as the realtor, like I mentioned, we gather this package of information and offer documents to send to the selling party. We also include the lender in the process, and you've already gotten pre-approved, which is an entire thing as well. In order for us to get our client's offer accepted, it was like a cumulative effort between me, the lender, my assistant, and of course you as the home buyer. So our offer got accepted because everybody's hands really were like on deck. It was the whole team effort to get us there. Every now and then I'll have a client that's like maybe a week, 2 weeks into their home buying process, and then they decide that they want to change lenders, which is, on my end, it's makes it a lot more difficult because then I have to tell the selling party, and that raises all sorts of red flags for the selling party because they're like, well, we accepted your offer, your lender's great, what the heck, who are they going with? And then that's a whole interrogation thing. Now, I will say, we do have to say, they do have the right to change lenders, but it makes things a lot more difficult and a lot more ponderous.
Yep.
Take it away.
Absolutely. You absolutely have the chance or the opportunity to switch lenders at any time, really. And I always remind my clients that that is the case because we do have a lot of things that you have to sign when we first get started. But the main thing for me on this, obviously being biased, is that you shouldn't switch that last minute on any lender, whether it be us or another team or anyone. The amount of work that has to be done to prepare a loan package, to order things like the appraisal, the title report, to prepare disclosures, to build options for your clients, to spend time educating them. All of this is done after you go under contract. This is not even talking about the work that is done for the pre-approval to create a package that would allow for a pre-approval and to get you to the point where you could go under contract, calling the listing agent. There's just a huge amount of work that has to go to get you there, and then also to get you closer to closing, underwriting, etc. The other reason really you don't want to do that, aside from what that does to your lender, is what it can do to you. You have to remember that the quality of the person that you're working with, whatever lending team you're working with, is extremely important. If you're 2 weeks into the process, at the very least with us, at the 2-week mark, you're already conditionally approved. The appraisal's probably about to be back at that point. We've done almost all of the work, and it's a lot of kind of hurry up and wait. We're waiting for the closing date. We're waiting maybe for a couple of items that are left. But at that point, most of the work has been done. The better approach, in my opinion, is to try to make that decision before you go under contract, compare lenders, get an idea of what their pricing looks like, get an idea of what their service is like, their communication is going to be like, get some good opinions and talk to a few different lenders and get a feel for what is important for you. But when you start going out there and looking for a home, at that point, you should have it pretty narrowed down. Yeah. Because that person, if you've got a good lender, is going to go to bat for you and is going to do a lot of work to help you capture the home that you're looking for.
100%. Yeah. And wouldn't you say, like, I feel like with a lot of like online lenders, which sometimes they can be good, and sometimes people prefer to have a lot more hand holding and just like somebody that's local. But I think with a lot of like this online lender setup, a lot of folks assume that they can just like put their information in on like an app, like, or an application, I guess, on their phone, or like just crunch some numbers and then they have this approval letter. It comes out like no big deal, that it's printed out like a receipt. Right. And the thing is, like we mentioned earlier, there's a lot of factors that go into a pre-approval. All that to say, it's just important to remember all the work that has been put into it.
It's a shoot first, ask questions later sort of approach. Yeah. Any lender can do that. We can do that. We can just simply get your electronic application, see that you have good credit, and say, you know what, you're pre-approved, go look for a house. We don't. We have a 100% close rate because we take so much pride in the pre-approval, and we want to make sure that when our clients go out there to shop and purchase, that they can do so with confidence. And that's why so much of that work is done on the front end. If you're working with someone that took another approach, you might not realize that you've been pre-approved or pre-qualified, but not realize that it's not been done in a very efficient, it's not been done thoroughly. Yeah. And so you could be in a lot of trouble without even realizing it.
The next point that actually Alejandro is going to share more on is don't make last minute changes to your loan.
This is a topic that's really near and dear to my heart. Last minute changes can be completely devastating to the loan process and to closing on your home. A lot of times people get the feel that a loan on a mortgage is the same as getting a car loan or going to the local bank and getting just a small personal loan. And you figure, oh, well, we're just gonna change these little things and then it's no big deal. It is a huge deal. And the reason that it's a huge deal is because of the amount of documents and paperwork and what essentially becomes a domino effect, a cascading effect of changes that can take a long time to update and to confirm and to verify. You don't want to make last minute changes. Let me tell you what happens. When you make a last minute change, we have to update your loan. When we update your loan, we have to go back to underwriting. When it goes back to underwriting, after it gets approved, that approval has to go to an attorney. The attorney has to redraw documents. It has to match with the title company. The title company has to send them paperwork back. It is such a crazy impact that can happen from a small change, which is why we always tell our clients at the 10-day mark, changes are over. So 10 days prior to closing, we've already made decisions about the way that your loan is gonna be structured, the way that the down payment is gonna look. Everything is set in stone and we're ready to go so that that does not happen, because it is a much bigger deal than you think. You don't want to make a change, miss your closing date, and cause a lot more problems for everyone involved.
Okay, so no changes after about 2 weeks into the contract.
Yeah, I would
Give or
say
take.
that somewhere around the 2-week mark, you should be done. Assuming that your loan is closing in about a month, somewhere around the halfway mark, you should stop.
We stop messing around at 2 weeks.
Because the truth is that there's not really a lot of reason for you to make changes last minute. Sometimes people want to change their down payment or they want to change the loan type entirely. So we sometimes have to have conversations about, why do you want to do this? Just know that if we do this, we could, be causing some big issues.
Next point, don't change jobs after you have been approved to buy a home.
Yeah, you don't want to change your job in and or around the same time frame in which you're looking for a job, period. Whether it's before contract or after contract, it can cause a lot of issues. Part of the reason that you don't want to do that is because the entire loan instrument is based off of what is referred to as a debt to income ratio, which is based off of your income. When you change your job, naturally you change your income. And sometimes it's not a super huge deal because your income is going to stay the same. You're at a salary job and you're going to a salary job. So it would seem to you, oh, this should be perfect. It shouldn't cause any issue. But then we get into, when does this new start date, or when does this new job start? And when is your closing date? Is it before or is it after? And mortgage companies want to be assured that you're actually going to get paid from this new job, that you're going to accept it, and that the terms of that contract that you're signing are actually going to be honored. You can cause a lot of problems with that because you might not have a paycheck from the new job prior to closing. That can cause some issues. It'll also be a way bigger issue if you're changing pay structure. If you're going from a base salary job, and this one happens a lot, where we have someone that's getting paid a base salary and they're doing well, but they accept a job with a company that's gonna pay them commission. But the commission job has a promise of making way more money than the base salary job that they had. People will take that job because in their mind they're thinking, well, I'm gonna make way more money in the future. But it is impossible for your lender to know that you will actually deliver, that you will actually make more money. It's a complete hypothetical. And unfortunately in mortgage, we can't work off of hypotheticals. So
of hugs and kisses.
Right, exactly.
Hugs and kisses don't pay for homes.
So you want to make sure that if the possibility of you changing your job exists, that you let your lender know way in advance so that they can get ahead of it. They can tell you whether it's a good idea or not, whether you need to wait or just avoid it altogether. Do not surprise anyone with the fact that you are searching for a job in the middle of this process, because honestly, at the end of the day, it only hurts you. You've put a ton of money into this purchase, earnest money, option money, inspections, appraisals. You're only risking losing all of that if you change jobs.
Next point, kind of a big one, and I think it's probably kind of counterintuitive for a lot of people, but do not schedule your movers on the day of closing. Reason being is we're kind of working around the title company's schedule. Sometimes they have early morning availability, and sometimes they don't. We have to close like in the afternoon. Even if our closing is set for like noon or 12 p.m. in the afternoon, we still have to actually close, which takes about an hour. So by the time we're done with documents, it'll be about 1 p.m. Then those documents need to be sent to the lender.
Correct.
You guys have to process everything.
Correct.
And then send the funds to the title company.
Right.
Title company sends the funds to the selling party, to the seller, the homeowner, which you are buying. And all of that takes a couple of hours. So by the time you're actually like done with your closing and you own your new home, it can be anywhere from like 3:30 p.m. or maybe like 4 p.m. And if you have movers scheduled to come that day, like it better be like end of the day, because it can take some time and it can kind of throw things off.
I think what ends up happening is that you put a tremendous amount of pressure on that specific date and on yourself. Because having movers scheduled for the day of your closing means that everything has to go exactly perfect. And the truth is that 90% of the time it does. But there are other times when there are things that we can't possibly control. We've had clients leave town, right? So we have to get documents sent to California for them to sign closing documents. Then we have to wait for FedEx to bring them back. There's all kinds of things that can happen on your closing date that would preclude your loan from being funded and closed on the exact time in which you want it. And what could happen, and what has happened to some of our clients, is that the closing won't occur. They have movers scheduled for Friday afternoon, but because the closing didn't happen, the seller won't allow them access. And they've already moved out of their place because they were scheduling everything to happen in one day. And now guess what? They're homeless for 2 days, and they have to figure out where they're going to stay for those 2 days. They got to find a family member or a friend. It can be a disaster. And when you go under contract, that's generally 21 to 30 days away from your closing. Don't schedule your movers for that day, because so much can happen in that time frame, in that 21 or 30 days, that might change whether or not it is realistic for you to move on that exact day. It's just not a good idea.
And like you said, 90% of the time, like it closes without a problem. And I
Right.
think you don't want to be stuck in the 10% where it's like super stressful. And it really, it doesn't really happen that often, but like when it does, it's super stressful, and people have their hair on fire, people start crying, buildings are burning. Like
I like to think of it as present self looking out for future self.
Yeah.
Just
Have some love
plan
for
a little bit
future
better.
self,
Yeah,
right?
I think so.
Finally, our final point is don't make any large purchases. Would you say cash and credit?
I would say cash less than credit, but both of them are important.
Yeah.
Because if you're relying on cash to make the purchase itself,
Obviously.
that's a huge issue. But the bigger one really is credit. Your entire mortgage is based off of, again, debt to income ratio. And when you buy something new, then we can see it. All mortgage companies have to do a credit refresh somewhere around 7 days prior to closing. So when they do that, if they see that all of a sudden you bought yourself a brand new car, or you went and bought a whole bunch of furniture on a credit card in planning for this move, or did whatever, all of those new debts have to be now calculated into your debt to income ratio, and they have to still maintain an approval. So you could throw everything off. If we approved you, and for example, your debt to income was 41%, you bought yourself a car, and now all of a sudden you're at 50%.
Oh my God.
It's over.
It's
done.
done. Game's
Like
over.
there is no getting around that. You have just completely changed the mortgage profile, and we can no longer approve you.
I have a question. So would you say sometimes maybe it doesn't matter so much, like if somebody's got like enough like spread on their debt to income and enough cash, like but still potentially run it by you before they go out and buy?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And this is why I think the relationship that you have with your lender is so important, because you can do so much in terms of planning if you communicate and you have a sense of some of your plans and you share them with your lender. I've had lots of clients tell me that they were planning to make purchases, and we would have discussions about, okay, do me a favor, find out how much the monthly payment is going to be, find out what you're trying to purchase, give me those details now so that I can plug the scenario in to see if when you do complete this, if it will be an issue or not. We can get ahead of a lot of that stuff. And sometimes when you have clients that are ultra mega qualified and their debt to income ratio is super low, they could still have room to purchase things. It could cause a delay, it could make things a little bit more complicated, but it's still gonna be okay. You have other clients where they have almost no room to make purchases. So again, always plan ahead and let your lender know what your plans are.
Can you tell the story about the Tesla?
Yeah, I can tell the story about the Tesla. So this was a long time ago, back in my young mortgage days. But
it's like a few years ago.
Yeah, okay. Well, we had a client that was coming and moving to Austin from California, was a doctor. Everything was totally fine. Mega approved, looked great, was buying a really beautiful big home in Austin. Everything was going great. When the credit refresh happened,
which is how many days before closing?
About 7 days prior to closing.
A week before closing.
Yeah. Had not mentioned at all that this person went and bought a Tesla. And I'm not talking about like a Tesla. I'm talking about the Teslas.
What's
you know, like
Tesla?
the baddest ones.
Like the Batmobile Tesla?
Yeah, like the
Roadster?
Yeah, I don't remember.
He was buying like a Model S.
I have no idea.
I know.
I'm not really into Teslas. That's just me.
I think it was a red
But
S.
it was a really expensive Tesla. Can we just leave it at that? Yeah. And the mortgage payment was huge. It was, I want to say, somewhere around $1,000, maybe a little bit more than that a month.
The mortgage payment?
Yeah,
No, the payment for the car.
The payment for the car.
The car payment was like probably $1,200.
The car payment was somewhere around that, about $1,200 a month. $1,200 a month made an enormous impact on the debt to income profile. I mean, it shot it way out of approval, and we're finding out about 7 days prior to closing, having conversations with this client to find out why they did that and you know what their thought process was. They genuinely did not realize it would have any impact because from their vantage point, they'd already been pre-approved, and so they just figured that because I'm already pre-approved, that's it, I'm done. The pre-approval and the approval and the final approval is a 30-day process from the moment you get, you know, under contract. So that had a huge impact. We had to have the person. The only way they were going to make it work was for them to pay the car off in full so that the monthly payment would go away, the profile wouldn't change, and we could still close. They had to pull money out of stock and pay the loan off in full. That was a heart stopper of a mortgage, and we were very fortunate that that person had the means to be able to do that. Don't be in a position where we have to tell you to pay off a car in full. You're probably not gonna like it a lot.
So that is so much information that we have for you guys today, and I'm sure we still left something out. If you have questions still, or if you have comments or ideas, please leave comments. I really love hearing from you guys and knowing what you guys are thinking and what information you would like to see more videos about. Again, I am Daphne Quay, your boss lady realtor. This is my good friend and lender, Alejandro Juarez. If you want more information, if you're thinking of buying a home in Austin or selling a home, please shoot me an email or shoot me an Instagram DM. Thanks so much. Till next time.